Politics or love, they make you blind or make you see, make you a slave or make you free. Only one does it all. It's giving up your life from the ones you hate the most. It's giving them your gown when they've taken your clothes. It's learning to admit you've had a hand in setting them up, knocking them down, because love is not against the law. No. Love is not against the law. No. Love, love, love. Are we defending life when we just pick and choose? Life's acceptable to lose. Which ones to defend? 'Cause you cannot choose your friends, but you can choose your enemies. What if they were one in the same? Could you find a way to love them both the same and give them your name? 'Cause love is not against the law. No. Love is not against the law. No. Love, love, love. Love is not against the law. No. Love is not against the law. Love, love, love.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Politics and love can make you blind or make you see. Tonight, loving our neighbors and our enemies in a pandemic. Welcome to Collective Church. I'm Ben. I'll be your host for the service this evening. In beautiful, I think it's like 71 degrees, downtown DeLand, Florida. Thanks. All right. An applause for the weather. And welcome to our living room from anywhere in the world at wearecollectivechurch.com. I hope you'll subscribe and stay connected. We've got some exciting stuff tonight, lots of music. And more. Some of us, we've done this a bunch of times. There's Sam Joseph. He's done it with us a bunch. Some of you guys, you've only done this with us a few times, or maybe this is your first time in anything like this or like a church. Thanks for the trust. That takes a lot of courage. We see that and we honor it. Thank you. So long time or first time, you belong. You're safe. You're valued. When you're here, when you're with us, you're equal. Your presence makes us who we are, so welcome. We're here to do what we call good work. Pretty simple. Making a good life as good people. And so our hope is that as a result of practicing with us, you have a better life, and maybe you're a better person. Kenny, I think it's a good time to dismiss these kids. I see them running around. That means they're probably trying to get hot chocolate or sugar or whatever Uncle Dan is willing to give them at the bar. They can see over the bar so they can drink. Yeah. Uncle Dave, Uncle Dan, yeah. So Sam and Huck and all you other little critters, Miss Ella is running Collective Kids tonight. Ella, do you want to wave? Yay, there's Miss Ella. Thanks, Miss Ella. June, you guys are going with Miss Ella. You're going to play games. You're going to have so much fun, do formation, all that good stuff. So children, go find Miss Ella, and it's your turn to be dismissed at this point. Yeah. You want to read the community statement? Well, man, that's quite a transition. Let's see what Kenny says. Kenny, what do you think?
I think that June should read the community statement.
Yeah, okay. Is that what's next?
Yes.
Fantastic. Come on, June. Great idea. She wants to show these kids how it's done. Thanks, Junie. Yeah.
We value highly the metaphor of journey, where different people from different places and backgrounds representing an intergenerational community. We've traveled different paths, so we agree not to make assumptions about the person across from us, next to us, or in conversation with us. We challenge ourselves to be sensitive, knowing this community includes a diverse group of people, from lifelong followers of Jesus to people who are just now open to the idea that God might exist. We strive to avoid offense, ask good questions, articulate and explain our responses. We don't assume fluency in Bible, spiritually, or church language, because we believe the message of Jesus is not for Christianity, but for humanity. So we do everything in the spirit of love and grace.
Yes. Perfection. Thank you very much, June. Thanks, Miss Ella. We love you, Collective Kids.
Travel different paths, beautiful people with messy pasts. So have no fear, no judgment here. Whether you believe in Jesus or don't believe in anything, something you can teach us. You belong, no right, no wrong. Solidarity helps us to find some peace in the great unknown. You don't have to be alone. Leaning into grace, help us make a place with an open table where no one's turned away. With love without why, no one asks to why. Finding God in people, sharing hearts as equals.
that's how we show up. And now it's time to get connecting. It's hard to build a movement if you don't know who's in it. So we're going to talk to each other. If you're willing to share with someone next to you, quick answers, 3 minutes on the clock, no me monsters, I will be online. You can give me a shout out and let me know you're with us. Send me the answers to our questions tonight. Tonight's question: have you ever dug deep to do the right thing, even when you're not sure it's working or it's not necessarily popular?
Easy stuff. Have fun. Glad you came to church. Good deal. Take it away.
Yeah.
3 minutes on the clock. Go. We'll come back. We might even ask you what you say. Go. Me, and then him. All right, well, I'm hearing all of the excitement die down, which means that everybody must be pretty satisfied with their answers. Let me just ask this. I'll give you guys a minute to wrap up. I'm going to put you all on the spot. Every single person. All right, we're going. Have you ever dug deep to do the right thing, even when you're not sure it's working or it's not necessarily popular? So let me just flip the question. Is there anyone here who has not dug deep to do the right thing, even when you weren't sure it was working? Okay. That's a lot of you, though. That's good. Good. Just wanted to point that out. Kenny? Oh yeah, no. I'm not asking you to share other than yes, we've done that. Yeah, you guys are already practicing. Good.
Thank you, everyone, for connecting. We've said it, sung it, connected in the room, got some answers online. Shout out to everybody that's watching online.
Yeah, who's there?
Mel's feeling a little under the weather, so she's not in the room right now. Sarah's watching from England.
Awesome.
Jay is watching and actually, again, continuing to chat in the which is great because it had been about a month since he was last able to communicate.
People say there's not miracles in the church anymore, but we've healed Jay's social engagement
Yeah.
online. We've restored him to full community here with the people, so miracles abound.
John Scott's watching, Dottie. We've got
Awesome.
we've got a pretty
crew.
packed online crew.
Awesome. Love you all. Glad you all are on with us.
So if you want to take the next step and practice with us this week, it starts with an email. You can subscribe and select a rundown as well as your preferences when you visit the website, and then the weekly rundown becomes your custom dashboard for us practicing together. We have a bunch of things coming up. The most important of these is probably the Faith Action Assembly on the 28th. Yeah, pretty big deal. Freddie, do you have anything to add to that?
It is going to be March 28th, and it is going to be at the Daytona Beach Drive-In Church. Unlike last year, we're not having the live stream option, so we're wanting to completely fill the space there, so there's just a sea of cars, because we're having many public officials coming, and we need to convince them to create a housing trust fund, to stop arresting children for minor offenses, and to get restorative practices in all Volusia County schools. And the more people that we have there to prove to them that the citizens want this and are calling for this change, the more power we'll have to actually convince them.
So we want to arrest less kids and get more affordable housing.
That's right.
That sounds mighty Christian. I think you all should do it. If you can't show up, I also want to recommend that you spend the money, and it's not going to be that much. Get an Uber to come to pick you up at the Daytona Christian Drive-In Church at the time of the Action Assembly. And even though you're not there, that car will be there. And those representatives will be threatened, I think, maybe, or held accountable. You guys really should. You got to come out and help us. And like we said last week, if it's only you, we're really grateful it's only you, but we really would love 3 friends, because people power is dependent on volume. So we're glad to have you in our corner. But if you would invite people and tell them that what's on the line in our county is affordable housing and youth incarceration, even if they're busy, hopefully they'll be like, okay, yeah, that sounds like maybe something we should be about. So please spread the word. You've still got a little bit of time to do it. Thanks, Kenny.
All right,
Bill.
so.
Oh, Bill's got more.
Oh.
Yeah.
Work to do in that area, because Joy showed me an article in the local paper, the Beacon, how their idea of affordable housing is creating mother-daughter property, which who's going to afford that? You know, it's like.
Yeah, there are a lot of, I think part of what we've run into is that there's a lot of proposed solutions, none of which individually will fix affordable housing, and that's why we've sort of said our best stab is at a clearinghouse for all of those projects, which is an affordable housing trust fund. So hopefully you guys can come out. We're going to ask the representatives to do that. We're going to explain that that's the will of the people, and we're going to keep pushing forward, right?
Amen.
Well, thank you for that. Kenny.
So that same week, that Wednesday, we've got our next Art and Soul event, which is protest art, and that's going to be at the brand new Create Space across the street since Jenny Beth has moved. Shout out to Sharon for correcting, there was an issue with the rundown.
Yes.
So anyone that has checked the box for that should have got a corrected link to get tickets. You can also go on Facebook or check out the link tree, which is included in every email, so that you can reserve a spot for this event. Then coming up pretty soon, a couple weeks from now, the Co-op is hosting Mental Health Matters event, April 7th.
Let's get a microphone over to the bar and ask Dave and Michelle to tell us a little bit about what's coming up. Sorry, Kenny, I stole that. But
No, it's good.
She refuses to answer questions when asked. Hey,
Michelle?
This is a Thursday evening. A lot of the mission of the co-op is to increase conversation around topics of mental health in our town. This specific event is going to focus on stigma and shame in mental health, so why there is so much stigma and shame around getting help. And then every person in attendance will get QPR certified, which is similar to CPR, but this is for suicide prevention. It is the most data-driven suicide prevention program out there. We have a $20 ticket for the event, but you can also click a $0 ticket. If you don't have the money for a ticket, you are welcome to do that. We just want people in attendance. All the proceeds from this are going to scholarships for people that need mental health care in our town. So I would love for y'all to share this out. So you can go to DeLand MHM, so mentalhealthmatters.com. Please, please, please register, come out, and support what we're doing. Aaron Moore is leading this. He is one of the lead therapists with To Write Love on Her Arms out of Melbourne. So,
Dave has shared with me recently about the data connected to the prevalence of suicidality and how significantly it's increasing. And we're talking about very, very practical spirituality here, very practical faith. And I would be surprised if more than half of this room hasn't already been in person or on the phone with someone who's suicidal. And if you haven't, based on the way that is going, you will. And what I want to suggest is that a $20 investment in a couple hours of your time might radically change not only their lives, but yours. For you to feel capable when somebody calls in need. I don't know if there's a much more practical spiritual discipline that I can encourage you to do in the short term to address mental health and suicidality. I think that's amazing. I know I'm planning to be there. So yeah, thanks a bunch for what you guys are doing. And
Thank you.
All right. And a reminder, we have kids every week now, and those kids need snacks. So if you have the opportunity while you're at the store to pick up snacks for the kids, please do so. It's very appreciated. And as always, planning is the practice. Plan now to do what you might not feel like doing later this week. You can show up, give, and serve. That's how we practice together.
thanks, Kenny.
Yeah.
Be the light in the crowd. Be the one that's been there on a camel's back, slow to anger, quick to laugh. Be more heart and less attack. Be the wheels, not the track. Be the wonder that's coming back. Leave the past dry and where it's at. Be more heart and less attack. The more you take, the less you have. 'Cause it's you in the mirror staring back, quick to let go and slow to react. Be more heart and less attack. Ever growing steadfast, and if need be, the one that's in the gap. Be the never turning back. Twice the heart any man could have. Be the wheels, not the track. Be the wonder that's coming back. Leave the past right and where it's at. Be more heart and less attack. Be more heart and less attack. Be more heart and less attack. I stuck my head out. I caught the raindrops. I drank the water. I felt my veins black. I'm nearly sanctified. I'm nearly broken. I'm down the river. I'm near the open. I stuck my head out. I caught the I'm down the river to where I'm going. I'm down the river to where I'm going.
Oh, thanks, Jeannie. It's so easy. All I have to do is get up here and be quiet. We're going to sound the singing bowl and sit together, and we're going to ask you to join us for a few minutes in gently returning to your attention, to your true self, to God, whether that feels like a deep center or the freedom of total emptiness. Either way, sink into that. Breathe and listen as if your senses are searching for something. Your mind will wander. Come back to your breath. No judgment, just notice gently, gently to your breath. Use the drone footage as best helps you to survey your own inner landscape. And may the silence allow us to contemplate what we want the ceremony to accomplish for us. Humility, spiritual rebirth, strength for what lies ahead. Breathe. It's all right. Take a breath and kind of gently return to the awareness of the room. I'm going to read a text for you, and I'm back and forth here. Yeah, I'm just going to read it to you and just let it do what it does. I want to set it up, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna resist. Psalm 39. Well, okay, I'll say this. Look for yourself in it. See if you're there anywhere. See if you can relate. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit down and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I wake, I am still with you. If only you, God, would slay the wicked. Away from me, you who are bloodthirsty. They speak of you with evil intent. Your adversaries misuse your name. Do I not hate those who hate you, Lord, and abhor those who are in rebellion against you? I have nothing but hatred for them. I count them my enemies. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.
Every breath you take, every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you. Every single day, every word you say, every game you play, every night you stay, I'll be watching you. Can't you see you belong to me? How my poor heart aches with every step you take and every move you make, every vow you break, every smile you fake, every claim you stake, I'll be watching you. Since you've been gone, I've been lost without a trace. A dreamy night, I can only see your face. I look around, but it's you I can't replace. I feel so cold and I long for your embrace. I keep crying, baby, baby, please. step you take, and every move you make, every vow you break, every smile you fake, every claim you stake, I'll be watching you. Every move you make, every step you take, I'll be watching you.
Should Christians wear masks and get vaccinated? All right, good, an easy one. This question's really about acknowledging that everyone wants to do both what they're comfortable with and what's right. We don't want to hurt anybody. To set aside our desires and preferences for the good of our neighbor, though, that's Jesus' definition of love. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down our lives for our friends. And of course, I'm not going to tell you that this is clear or easy. There is no text in the Bible that will resolve the wrestling between the poles of freedom and the common good. In fact, they name it. Everything's allowed, but not everything is beneficial. Not everything you're free to do, and you are free to do it, but not everything you're free to do will serve the common good. So when we are free to do what is bad for others, we're called to set aside not our freedom, but our preferences. Because this is the gospel. We, every single one of us, we are free to pursue the common good, not only our own. So yeah, we collectives still find ourselves on the side of laying down our lives for our friends. Societally, this means doing the most good and the least harm. Masks, vaccines, and all. There's a place for you here. Our sincere hope is that Collective is a place for anyone, but we know it's not for everyone. If you think it might be a place for you, we hope that you'll bring all your questions and your sense of humor. But enough about us. We really are so curious about you. Please join us Sunday nights at 5 here in downtown DeLand or at wearecollectivechurch.com. Your presence makes us who we are, and there's a place for you here. Now may the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts grant us not only the light of wisdom to understand these words, the fire of conviction, so that we can put them into practice. Amen. I'm really pleased with how that video came out. I don't know that I need to say a ton more. We have an ethical concern for our neighbors and our enemies. We want to do what's right. And we're 2 years in and we're tired. Tired of arguing about it. We're tired of having been right during part of the pandemic, but not anymore. We're tired of the people that we don't like not having been right during part of the pandemic, but now they are. And so I think what we want to do at this point, and of course we were working on this series 9 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Things were very different. I don't need to say anything else about establishing a theology for caring for our neighbors. Really what we wanted to do tonight was to give you an opportunity to practice around our experience of the pandemic. And so what we felt like that meant was more music. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. We want to sing together because we couldn't sing together. We couldn't be together. And hearing each other's voices is incredibly important. Incredibly, significantly formative and bonding for a community to sing together, to hear each other's voices, to feel safe to sing even if you're not a professional singer. And so we wanted to sing tonight, and I also want to acknowledge that for most of us, probably the static we have around the pandemic and masks and vaccines, I would guess is probably not still like as much a frustrated ideological disagreement as it is now, 2 years in, a felt loss. And that may be the loss of a person due to the pandemic. That may be the loss of a relationship due to an inability to see eye to eye about the pandemic. There's all sorts of ways that you might have experienced loss. And so rather than us getting together and either celebrating that we've got the right answer to the pandemic or me trying to convince you of some kind of theology, instead I want to give you guys time to light a candle and to sit with your loss and to acknowledge that whatever our theology and our ideology and our points of agreement and disagreement, that this community is here to hold us in the loss that we've suffered, in the pain that we've suffered. So yeah, I want us to have a moment to breathe and sing primarily. And I want to echo that I think still, and I think the leadership of the congregation, I think you all do as well, kind of agree that we still stand by doing the best we can, doing the most good for the most people, the least harm. I was listening to kind of the pandemic in review on NPR because I'm my dad and I'm excited about that. And there was this thing on the show Up First. And look, I'm not a scientist. I'm not even a conspiracy nut who claims to be a scientist. But I've tried to trust, the United Methodist Church, who's the governing board overseeing sort of what I do, my job, my boss, and then also just credible, science, things like that. And so specifically when it comes to what do we do in a congregation this size, I looked to the experts that were talking about what we do in a congregation this size, which is why for a while we didn't gather, and then when we gathered we didn't really sing, but now we can. And what I've continued to try to do is acknowledge that no one else has offered me any specific credible information about what we should be doing, this congregation in a space like this. And so as we've always tried to do, we do the best with what we have. And as soon as we know better, we do better. If there's a way that we can set aside our preferences to serve and love our neighbors better, then we want to do that. I just want to share this because this came across my email this week, and I thought it was a really interesting way to conceive of kind of where we are. It basically made the argument that there's people saying that the new normal is going to be the pandemic basically fades into being sort of like the flu. That it'll come to be just sort of an accepted part of society. And this article with data basically says, no, it's actually a lot more like smoking. It's an entirely preventable thing that a group of people will choose not to do, and the percentages of people who will die basically mirror smoking. And so I thought it was just a helpful for me, a helpful metaphor, both of the fact that, okay, things are getting less locked down, we're having a little bit more freedom, and we're also surrounded by a bunch of people who still either don't believe in the science or they're just choosing not to. And so it's going to continue to have an impact on our lives. People will continue to die in the same way that people continue to die from smoking-related causes. And I wanted to basically ask this question. So I said in the video, we want to do, our path is to love our neighbors and our enemies. This is what Jesus says about that. I want to just kind of let you guys share where you are, and then we'll light some candles. You've heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and he sends the rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Don't even pagans do that. Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. I feel like this text has come up recently, I don't know, maybe in the last year or so, because I remember making the comment that the translation of the word perfect is really more like mature. It's not perfect in the sense of complete or fixed or done. It's mature in the sense of wholeness. We're talking about the kind of spirituality we're trying to do, being finding an integrated self, the true self, integrity. That's sort of this maturity. So we've got Jesus saying, love your neighbor and your enemy. If you were going to try to put that into practice, what would that look like for you? You guys take that like literally, like pray, like do you actually pray for people who are at enmity with you? How would you practice that? Or is this like, do we just do greeting cards? We're like, okay, we sort of believe Jesus meant that. We're not going to do that. Do we pray for people who persecute you? How many of you felt, let me back up. Did anyone feel persecuted during the pandemic for the choices they made? Okay. The longer I wait, the more hands are going up. So, okay, let's do this. Does anyone have a friend who was persecuted during the pandemic for their beliefs? Yeah. So I don't think it's rare. So I think we have to do the work, right? We as a congregation, and I think we're trying to do that, but we individually, you guys have to do the work of finding that balance between freedom and preferences. And that's tough, right? Because we have so much freedom, we have so much discretion. We can kind of do what we want. So we've got to balance that for ourselves. And then we also have to balance that, though, as a congregation, right? Because nobody got through the pandemic without like taking a side or being forced onto a side or being questioned why they, hate science or God or, whatever because of what they're doing with masks and vaccines. Part of what I think is crucial, even if we still feel like we've done the best that we can, there's still a need to preserve an internal critique. And this is something that I think I've really been a fan of because of the Hebrew prophets showing up in the Bible. I think it makes the text so credible to have in the Bible itself an internal critique, to have at the heart of the Bible these prophets saying, yeah, you guys talk about God, you talk about love, you talk about worship, but you're oppressing and exploiting the lower class. You're excluding from your sacred community people who need love and grace most. That critique is in the text itself. And so part of what we know is that an echo chamber is also not healthy. We don't want to get together and only talk to people who already agree with what we think about masks and vaccines and everything like that. So there's a need for an internal critique. And part of what I want to do is just say, that's okay, right? We don't need to shut that down. Those critiques are openings for conversation, if for no other reason than for us to learn to empathize with someone who disagrees with us. It's not your job to change their mind. You don't need to convince them to think what you do or to come here. See if you can empathize. See if you can understand where they're coming from. So we had a couple internal critiques within the couple weeks of sharing these videos. The first actually came prior to us even doing anything about masks and vaccines, but there was a critique early on, the first couple of weeks, from a woman who'd been a member of the congregation a long time ago, who basically said, how can you guys be doing all of this great progressive, kind of work, but all of your events, nobody's wearing masks? How do you reconcile that, right? And the accusation was like, oh, that's hypocritical. And so for a long time, I thought, man, I should write a sermon about that. But then instead, I was like, I'm going to ask them what they would say, because then I don't have to write a sermon, and I get to ask you guys what you would say. How do we reply? How do we reply when people feel like they can critique the way that we've responded to things? I don't know that anybody's... Yeah, Dan. Who is it? Oh, you listen. I thought you said, who is it? Pitchforks.
You listen. You want to have you listen. You want to have a conversation with them, and you try to give up the need to be right and really listen, and ask them to do the same thing.
Yeah,
it's difficult because a lot of people are filled with anger, righteous indignation, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But if you stay calm, they might really listen to you.
Yeah.
And you might really learn something.
Yeah, we might really listen too. Perfect. Love it. Yeah, and I thought we kind of said strategically from early on that we were going to really try not to engage on social media because we feel like this is a lost art form. Inviting people into a room where we can openly disagree, we can have conversations about, why we feel a certain way or why not. But ultimately, it has to come back to understanding their perspective. I got a message this week after we released the video, and this is not somebody that I'm familiar with, I don't think has been a part of our congregation that I'm aware of. But started sending me resources and critiquing the mask and vaccine video. And I'll be honest, I didn't totally understand what the critique was, but I picked up enough of the critique that it was about the difference in how this response feels in the Black experience. And I thought, especially after what we talked about last week, I thought, ooh, okay. I have to pause. Because the truth is, I'm going on the best of what I have, but I don't have everything. I don't know what it's like to be coming out of the pandemic. I don't know what it's like from the Black experience. I don't know what the things that I'm saying to us as if we all agree with them, I don't know what they feel like to a Black person. So yeah, that's on me. I've got to step back and figure that out. And I would not know that if we weren't open to an internal critique, right? If what we said is 12 months ago or 15 months ago or 18 months ago, this is our COVID ethic, screw everybody else, here's the line, you either are on it or you're across it. We haven't done that. We haven't had a really rigid policy on what we do. I think instead we're trying to cultivate a sense of concern for each other and care and acknowledge, as we did, as a world economically, that without getting people back in the room, without resuming what we are as a church, we can't continue to do what we're doing. We won't survive. And so we've got to hold these tensions and we have to do it well. And again, it's back to that invitation to do the least harm, do the most good for the most people we can. How are you guys feeling? I don't feel like I necessarily need feedback, but I want to open space for you if there are things that you are wondering or you feel like you've needed to say or haven't had a safe place to say or to ask. I want to open that space because I think for a lot of people there's not a real safe place to talk about COVID without the person you're talking to sort of assuming you already agree. Yeah, Joe.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, launch it. Shh.
Mary gets her steps in this week.
Thank you. I think one of the, kind of to play devil's advocate about it, I think one of the biggest things, and I work in healthcare with the vaccine, is to have grace for people who don't feel comfortable getting it.
Yeah.
People who are afraid of getting it or for whatever reason don't want it. I think that just like I tell them, like it's my body, my choice when it comes to a hell of a lot of other things, I just feel like I should have that same, like not be hypocritical about it and let them also make a choice on their body on whether they want to get vaccinated or not.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think, I agree. I think if essentially we're talking about cancel culture. If you shut somebody down, you lose the opportunity to understand them and for them to understand you. And I think in the same way, I'm not going to run up to everyone I see smoking and immediately try and convince them that what they're doing is harmful to them and to us. But I think over time, people come to understand that secondhand smoke is less acceptable, and I think society adjusts, culture adjusts. But I agree. For us, for our practice, I think, as close as we can to the edge of safety, we definitely want to err on the side of grace rather than canceling. Bill? Hold on, wait for a microphone. Oh, sorry, Lewis was next.
That's all right.
No, it's okay. Mary's got it.
Mary's getting her exercise.
She's hustling.
I didn't say Lewis. I love what Dan said. It's a real death to self, though. It's hard,
Yeah.
but it's worth it. The other thing I would say is speak your truth in love. Because Alexander Vindman, one of my new heroes, truth still matters here.
Yeah.
And it's loving to speak your truth. Now, my truth may be wrong, but it's my truth.
Yeah.
And there's something about, even if I'm wrong, the only way I'm going to find that out is if I speak it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think you speaking your truth and listening to someone else's truth allows you to find a point of connection. Because the truth is, I think and I'll speak for myself. When I get afraid, what I do is I polarize, I'm afraid, and so you're wrong. If you disagree with me, and I think we have so many opportunities to say, like you just said, or like Joe just said, I'm afraid. I understand you're also afraid. And you're responding to your fear very differently. And so please tell me about your fear of the vaccine, your fear of, what comes down from the government, your whatever. Tell me about your fear. And then I get to also say, yeah, and I'm so afraid of getting that and not having the health care that I need or having long COVID. Then you're relating, right? You're sharing your fear. They're sharing their fear, and it's not right and wrong. It becomes an opportunity to connect through vulnerability. Lewis.
When you opened for this conversation, my thoughts weren't altogether on the vaccine, Ben, so I hope that's okay if I diverge a bit from
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
no, you're allowed to change your mind, or sure.
Well, I several things went through my mind, needless to say. And I like to start with that word perfect that
Yeah.
you were explaining. When I used to try to explain that, one of the best examples that we came up with, was that it does not mean flawless. It does not mean flawless. But how to explain what does it mean then? Use the example of kids out playing baseball. The ball hits the window, breaks the window. The weather's terrible outside, the house, here, wherever it is. So back in the day, like when you broke a window at Hyde Speed Store one time, they sent over to Fiesel's to get a replacement to put into the window. Well, Fiesel's didn't have a size that large, so they looked over in the corner where they'd thrown some away because it had flaws. It might have been cloudy or whatever, but it fit the window. It suited the purpose for which it was made. And that was always the best explanation of that word that I ever heard or used. And now let me switch gears, if I may. I'm wearing the yellow and the blue.
Yeah.
We were out there. That whole thing dominates a lot of my feelings.
Let me clarify, because you're making some assumptions. Lewis is wearing yellow and blue and said they were out there, meaning at a rally in support of Ukraine.
Thank you. And I was
Yes.
surprised that the number of 18-wheelers actually honked, so. But when somewhere back in theology, when we were talking about what it meant to take God's name in vain, it was not what we typically think of it, GD. That was not what it meant. It came across this, when I was in seminary, it was the height of the Vietnam War. We were going out to demonstrate. But it was like, if you prayed to God to kill a commie for Christ, kill a commie for Christ. Now that was taking God's name in vain.
Yeah.
See, now I'm really perplexed because with Putin, and I'm reading things that come out and dare say, yes, he's evil. And do you pray for his demise? That kind of thing? He's evil? What happens if you pray to God, let's do something and get rid of this man? And so that's what I'm dealing with.
That's what you're wrestling with.
I
Yeah.
am. I mean, things don't always get simpler. But thank you for
No, thanks. I
that.
didn't know where you were going with that, but we may find ourselves in another moment historically. There was a figure, I think, during World War II, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a part of a plot to try to assassinate Hitler, who's a Christian theologian, and produced a lot of writing from prison when the plot failed. But yeah, I'll say I've had conversations with friends and colleagues about whether or not it's a Bonhoeffer moment, but we also had those conversations during the Trump administration. So yeah, I think it's, we're always on many levels balancing our own freedom and preferences, our community's freedom and preferences, and then, yeah, you look at the global scale, and I don't know, to answer your question, what do you pray for? I think you,
Bonhoeffer's a great example, though. Letters and papers to prison.
Yeah.
2 weeks before Hitler had him executed.
Yeah. So let's end this one authentically. We love each other. We don't know everything. We're doing our best. Things with the pandemic are changing. We're grateful. We want to fill this room. We want to help more people. There's another war on. What do we do about that? We don't know. We're trying our best to know, to support. Huck and I got gas on the way here. And it's an indication that more and more people are feeling like they can't make it, like they just can't get by, like there's not enough. And I don't know how to fix that. What I want us to be fixing is telling people the good news that it's not their fault. Gas prices are not your fault. The inability to make it in this system, it's not your fault. The fact that there's not enough housing for people in our county is not your fault. The fact that there are more bills at the end of the month than there is money is not your fault. We don't know. We don't know how to fix this stuff, but we want to be a part of the solution. We want to be a part of learning to love our neighbors and our enemies well. We know we're not mature, but we want to be. We want to be integrated. If we're going to die on a hill, let's let it be heresy, not hypocrisy. In a minute, we're going to come to this table and recognize all of the good gifts in the Eucharist, this meal that symbolizes an open table. Tonight, the reminder is that the table is open also to people who disagree with you about how to live in a pandemic. It reminds us of that. It reminds us of the humanity of God and each person that comes, the body of Christ, those we agree with and those we don't. God's sun and rain falling on each. May this table open you in vulnerability to feel more loved and give you the courage to be more loving. This table's set for us and for all people, and no one will ever be turned away. When you're ready, come and share with one another this meal in these words: bread for the journey and nourishment for the soul. When you're ready, come. When you're done eating, you're going to be singing with us, just to give you a heads up. We wanted to be trusty and true, but feathers fell from our wings. We wanted to be worthy of you, but weather rained on our dreams. And we can't take back what is done, what is past. So fellas, lay down your fear, 'cause we can't take back what is done, what is past. So let us start from here. And we never wanted to be lusty or lewd, nor tethered to prudish strings. And we never wanted to be jealously tuned, nor withered into ugly things. But we can't take back what is done, what is past. So fellas, lay down your spear, 'cause we can't take back what is done, what is past. So let us start from here. And if all that you are is not all you desire, then come alone, come with fear, come with hope, come however you are, just come alone, come with friends, come with faults, come however you are, just come alone, come with me and let go, come however you are, just come alone, come with
Thank you so much for joining us in person and online tonight. And thank you again for making financial support a part of your practice by visiting collectivegives.com. You can make your plan to stay connected with us at wearecollectivechurch.com. You can update your preferences to customize your engagement. And if you're willing to share what you found and make it easier for others to do so, give us a review on Facebook or Google. And of course, share the videos that we share with you. For benediction this evening, a poem by Sarah Roll. Let the day open slow around you. Let the night open slow around you. Let the spring open slow, the fall open slow. The waking animals open their eyes slow around you. Let the night close slow around you. Let the day close slow around you. The winter close slow, the summer close slow. The sleeping animals close their eyes slow around you.
Attention, first to our foreheads for clarity of thought, to our lips for clarity of speech, and to our hearts for clarity of action, so that in all that we say and do, love would be our first thought, our first word, and our first deed. Grace and peace. We can leave the room set up.